Today we will be working on angles 3B page 1 and 3B page 2. Before we start on angles 3B page 1 and 2, we're going to review our angles. We're going to use the circles we used yesterday. Remember, all angles come from circles. Circle is 360 degrees, so this would be 180 out of 360 degrees, one full turn. Now 180 degrees is a straight angle. And we fold this in half, then we would get a right angle. That's 90 degrees, and it doesn't matter which way we would turn it, that would still be 90 degrees. Now if I was to fold it one more time, then we would get an obtuse angle. These are angles that are less than 90 degrees. Angles that are 90 degrees are right angles. And then that would be a acute angle. And then we would have obtuse angles. Obtuse angles are angles that are greater than 90 degrees. Those would be obtuse angles. So we have right angle. It's an angle that is exactly 90 degrees. And we have this little symbol that represents a right angle. We have acute angles. Angles that are less than 90 degrees are acute angles. And obtuse angles, angles that are greater than 90 degrees. Then we have the straight angle. Straight angles measures exactly 180 degrees. Like today we'll be creating some angles. We'll make about 6 angles, and then we'll continue to our angles, page angles 3B. So remember, when we create angles or measure angles, we use a protractor. Like today we're going to start with an angle that is 60 degrees. So first we're going to make a ray. So I'm going to start, we can use a ruler or you can use the edge of your protractor. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to start with a ruler. If I take this ruler and I make a ray, so I'm going to start with this is my end point, and that's the ray. So if I have a ray, if I wanted to make an angle that is 60 degrees, then I will use my protractor. Remember the parts of the protractor. We have the center point. This is the zero edge or zero line. This right here, that's the zero edge, all the way up to here, or a zero line. Now we have two scales. There's a scale that starts on the right side, right here. It's this is 0, and then 10, 20, 30, 40, and all the way to 180. This is the inner scale because it's inside the protractor. Now the scale that starts on the left side, starts with 0, it goes all the way to 180. That is the outer scale. So if the ray is pointing to the right side, then we're going to use the inner scale. If the ray is pointing to the left side, then we're going to use the outer scale. All right, so when we're looking at this ray is pointing to the left side. So that means we're going to be using the outer scale. And we want to make an angle that is 60 degrees. So I'm going to start, step 1 would be to put my center point right on that end point of that ray. There you go. And now the ray has to go to the zero edge or the zero line. So there it is. I lined up that ray with that zero line. So that means I'm going to use the outer scale because I'm start with 0. Remember, I start with 0. I don't start with 180. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. 60 is right here. So when I find 60, I'm going to make a mark where the 60 is. I'll make a mark down there. And then I can take the protractor off, and I'm going to make a ray from my end point here all the way to that mark that I made where the 60 degrees was. So I start here and I make that line. So right there, I made a 60-degree angle. So what kind of angle would a 60-degree angle? Is it a straight angle, a right angle, an acute angle, or an obtuse angle? So I know 60 degrees is less than 90 degrees. So that would make it an acute angle. Acute angles are less than 90 degrees. So that would be acute angle. So next, let's make a 45-degree angle. Remember, while we're creating an angle, we start with a ray. So this time I'm going to make the ray pointing to the right side. So I'm going to start here and point to the right side. So this is my endpoint, and this is my ray. So I have a ray. We start with a ray. So again, we take our protractor, we put our center point right on that protractor, and this ray has to go through this zero line or zero edge. So here we point to the right side. I'm not going to use my outer scale because I want to start with 0, not 180, and then go count down. This is 0 right here. Then I'm going to go 0, 10, 20. Remember, I want to make this 45 degrees. This 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So 45 is somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to use these lines right here. So I'm going to have to zoom in so I can see those lines a little better. So there we go. So this is 40. So if I follow this line where it says 140, that's the same as 40. So that'll be 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. So here's 45. So I would have to make a mark where that 45 is. And again, all I have to do now is use the edge of my protractor to connect that mark that I just made to my endpoint of this ray. And I just created a 45-degree angle. And 45-degree angle, is it straight, right, acute, or obtuse? I know it's less than 90 degrees because it's 45, so that would make it an acute angle. So this is an acute angle. So let's make one that is let's make it 75 degrees. So I'm going to zoom out. Again, when we're creating angles, we start with a ray. I'm going to make my ray here. And this would be the ray. This is the endpoint of the ray. And now I can use my protractor to create that 75-degree angle. So I'm going to use my protractor again. My center point goes at the end point of the ray. This ray has to be at the zero edge or the zero line. And remember, I want it to be 75 degrees. That means I'm going to use my inner scale because the ray is pointing to the right side. I'm not going to start with 180. I'm going to start with 0. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Now 75 would be somewhere in the middle. So I go 70s here. 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. 75 is right there. So now all I have to do is connect that mark that I made with this endpoint of this ray over here. And I just made a 75-degree angle. If I want to measure it again, I put my center point on that vertices, and that zero edge right here, this line that's right here, has to be on that ray. There you go. And I start in the 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 5 more, 75 degrees. So that measures 75 degrees. So if it's 75 degrees, I know it's going to be an acute angle because it's less than 90 degrees. Let's make 2 more angles or 3 more angles. Let's make one that's 120 degrees. So I'm going to start with a ray. I'm going to start right here. I'm going to make the line maybe a little bit lower. So I'm going to make the line right here. There's my ray. I have an endpoint and it's going to the left. All right, so I want this to be 120 degrees. So I'm going to put that center point on the endpoint of that ray. And the ray itself has to be on that 0 line. So now this time it's pointing to the left. That means I'm going to use my outer scale. So I want this to be 120 degrees. So it's 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. So I make a point right here where it's 120. And again, all I have to do is connect that this endpoint to that mark that I made. and I just created 120 degrees. That means from here to here, that's 120 degrees. So if it's 120 degrees, I know that it's greater than 90 degrees, so it's going to be an obtuse angle. So this would be an obtuse angle. We'll make one more, and then we'll start on our paper. All right, so let's make one that is 140 degrees, 155 degrees. So I'm going to start with a ray, put my endpoint, that's my ray. All right, so then I get my protractor. My center point goes to that dot, to that endpoint in the ray. And that ray has to be on that zero line. So if it's pointing to the right side, that means I'm going to use the outer scale. So I go 0. Remember, we always start counting with 0 and move up. We don't start with 180, then count down from 180. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140 would be right there, 140 degrees. And then all I do is connect those two, and I made an angle that is 140 degrees. So if it's greater than 90 degrees and less than 180 degrees, then that would be an obtuse angle. So that's how we create angles using protractors. All right, so now we're going to work on this assignment, Angles 3B, page 1. It says, identify each type of angle. Then use a protractor to measure the angle. The first one has been done for you. So they did the first one for us. So we look at this angle, we can tell right away this is a right angle. We can also check if we use that paper that we made. There it is. That is a right angle, or anything with a corner. I can take a piece of paper and put it there. That's a right angle right there. It's a perfect corner. So that's a right angle. All right, let's do number 1. So we look at our angle. So first we have to look, what kind of angle is this? Is this a right angle, obtuse angle, acute angle, or obtuse angle? So is it one of these angles? So we look at it, it is an acute angle. So I'm going to write acute on that line. This is acute angle. All right, so now we want to know how much it measures. What is the measure of that acute angle? So this is where we use our protractor. Remember, we have to put our center point on the vertices, and then this ray has to be on our zero edge or zero line. If it doesn't reach our zero line, like if this one doesn't reach all the way to our zero line, what we could do, we could extend that ray. That means we can make it longer. If we put the edge of our protractor there and use it as a ruler, we made it longer. So now when I try to do it this way, I can see exactly where it is. It's right here. So now we count. We're going to use our inner scale. So this is 0, this is 10, so it's closer to 20. So I'm going to zoom in. Wait a minute, it's not right at 0. There we go. So this is 10, and then this would be like 10 right here. So now I can count 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This is about 17 degrees. Again, if I can't see where that ray is, I can use the edge of my protractor and stretch out that ray. So now when I put it back on where it needs to be, I can see exactly where it is. So this is 10. That would be like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So this one is 17 degrees. So 17-degree angle, it's an acute angle. So let's look at number 2. Number 2. So first we look at what kind of angle is that. So we look at our angles, looks like an obtuse angle. That's greater than 90 degrees. If I was to put this right here, this is 90 degrees. This is greater than the edge of that angle. So it's greater than 90 degrees. So this is an obtuse angle. So now we need to know the measure of that obtuse angle. Before I measure it, I'm going to extend the rays on this angle. So that way when I'm measuring it, makes it easier for me. So I'm going to extend these rays. And I'm going to extend this ray as well. So now when I put my protractor here, so my center point goes on the vertices, and this ray has to be at the zero edge or the zero line. And now I can see exactly where that line is. This ray is pointing. So I'm not going to start on this zero line because there's no ray here. There's nothing here. This ray is pointing to the right side, so I have to start on the outer scale. So this is 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140. So I'm going to zoom in so we can see those scales better. Here we go. 140, 141, 42, 43, 44, 45. So this measures 145 degrees. 145 degrees. Now you go ahead and try the rest of page 1 on your own. We did the first 3 together. Now you do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on your own. Now when you get to number 9, you don't need to use this protractor anymore because they put one there for you. So number 9, first we have to figure out what kind of angle would that be. If we look at it, this is an acute angle. So I know acute angles are going to be less than 90 degrees. So when I'm going to zoom into it, so I know this is less than 90 degrees. So if I look at this ray, it's going between 123 and 63. I know we're not going to use this one because this is an acute angle. It's got to be less than 90 degrees. So 60 is less than 90, not 120. All right, so when we look here, we look at this ray. The ray is pointing to the right side, this base one, the one at the bottom. And we start at 0, count at 0. We don't start counting at 180. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then 61, 62, 63 degrees. So this one is 63 degrees. Now, if this is an acute angle, the 63 degrees makes sense. It does because acute angles are less than 90 degrees, and 63 is less than 90 degrees. Now, if I had gone through the outer scale and put 110, 115, 116, that would not make sense because this is an acute angle. It should be less than 90 degrees, and 116 is greater than 90 degrees. So if we look at the measure and look at our angle, they make sense. An acute angle is less than 90 degrees. This is 63 degrees. That makes sense. So let's go to number 10. We look at our bottom ray. This is pointing to the 0 scale, and we're going to count all the way till we get to the other ray right here. All right, so remember, we always start counting at 0. We don't start counting at 180. So that means we're going to use the outer scale because this ray is pointing to the right side. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, and doesn't get to 160, so now we have to count this marks down here. So 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156. So this is 156 degrees. Now if I look at the angle, I know this is an obtuse angle. So if this is an obtuse angle, does 156 degree make sense? I know obtuse angles are greater than 90 degrees, and I know 156 is greater than 90 degrees. So 156 makes sense. It is 156. If I had used the inner scale, I would have gone to 0, 10, 24 degrees. So if this is an obtuse angle, 24 degrees does not make sense because obtuse angles are greater than 90 degrees and 24 is less than 90 degrees. So let's go to number 11. Again, this ray is pointing to the right side. That means I'm going to use the outer scale. So I'm going to start at 0 and I'm going to count all the way to this ray right here. So if I look at the angle, I know this is an acute angle, so my measurement has to be less than 90 degrees. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74. So this is 74 degrees. Now, if this is an acute angle, the 74 makes sense. It does because acute angles are less than 90 degrees. 74 is less than 90 degrees. If I had used the bottom scale or the inner scale, I would have gotten a measure of 106 degrees. 106 degrees doesn't make sense for an acute angle because it's greater than 90 degrees. Acute angles are less than 90 degrees. Now you try the rest on your own. 12, 13, and 14. Try those on your own.